Hey everybody, Pastor Ashish here. If you had to pick between going to a party or eating one of these, which one would you pick? If you're like me, you would pick the party. But Proverbs 17:1 says something interesting. Here's what it says. Better a dry crust with peace and quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. Better to be by yourself eating one of these dry pieces of bread rather than being at a Thanksgiving meal that's full of people but full of fighting. You know, it's interesting that Solomon is the one who says this because he would throw these international dinners for people where people would have choice cuts of meat. There would be wine flowing, all you would think the recipe, the ingredients for a great night with the king. But instead, there was fighting and scheming and arguing going on. And Solomon, I wondered if he looked at all of this going on around him and he said, you know what? I would rather just eat this undesirable, this non-appealing piece of bread rather than be with this going around us. We're in the middle of our 12 Keys for a Healthier Relationship Devo series. And today I want to talk to you about answering without arguing. Answering without arguing. Oftentimes this happens when you're off with someone, when there's some conflict, there's some misunderstanding, there's some miscommunication that goes on with someone. And usually if you're like me, you're tempted to argue instead of answering, right? But while this is happening verbally, there's actually something going on underneath. And underneath this, there's a relational gap that's growing with every passing hour that this is not resolved. And this relational gap looks like distance. This looks like not seeing eye to eye. We're just off a little bit. We're not on the same page, you might say. And when we're facing this relational gap, we have one of two options. You ready for this? Here are the one of two options. One is to feed the gap to make it worse, make it grow, or to starve the gap, to shrink it so that now we're closer to one another. Feed the gap or to starve the gap. Here are three ways to feed the gap, to make things worse in your relationships. The first is less communication, both in terms of frequency and in terms of clarity. When we're having low quality communication, it is detrimental to the relationships that we have. It actually feeds the gap, makes it worse. Here's the second one. When we are coming from a place of defensiveness, defending what we've said or what we've done rather than working towards the health or the unity of the relationship, that too feeds the gap. Here's the third one, is to assign motives, is for when you start to say, I know why they did what they did, and you're sticking to it. That too can feed the gap. So if you want an unhealthy relationship, you can stop this video right here. You've got all you need. But if you want a healthier relationship and you want to take it to the next level, here are two ways to take it to the next level. Here's the first one, to resist storytelling. Oftentimes when there's a gap in a relationship, we can begin to fill that chasm by filling in a narrative. Well, I know what happened, X happened, and you know when X happens, Y also happens. And what do you get when you add X and Y? You get not Z, but J, right? You begin to add all of these plots, and you enter this novel writing world of fabricating the story of what might have happened in between. And so when this happens, this really is unhelpful. Because the thing is that we get certain without confirmation. So certainty without confirmation is suspicion. And instead of coming from a place of suspicion, what if you came from a place of curiosity, a place of exploration? So resist storytelling is first. Here's the second one, to explore the gap. To explore the gap is to ask questions with the other person and say, hey, how are you experiencing this? Here's how I'm experiencing this. What do you think about this? Or it feels like we're on the we've got off on the wrong foot, or we're not on the right page. What does it look like for us to get back together and to clear the air on things? Maybe it's also to test assumptions, to say, hey, here's an assumption I'm making about you or about where we are. What do you think about that? Am I accurate in saying that? Am I inaccurate? Let's talk about it, right? Is to explore the gap. And when we get to do these two things, it helps us answer without arguing, right? And when we answer without arguing, it helps us resolve conflict efficiently and quickly, which leads to really healthier relationships and way less baggage and communication as well. And when we do that, our relationships get healthier. And to that, my friends, I raise a toast. God bless you.